The stars were quiet. For many years, Earth had watched the galaxy without saying much. Humans had grown stronger, faster, smarter. They had sent warships into space. They had built stations on moons and hidden weapons near black holes. But still, they remained silent, watching, listening, preparing. Then, the signal came. It was weak, broken, full of static and fear. But even through the noise, the message was clear. Please, help us. This is the Tralaxi people. We are under attack. The Goran host is coming. We cannot stop them. Please, someone, anyone, help us. Inside Earth's High Command Center, the message played over and over. The lights were dim. The room was cold and silent, except for the voice of a dying alien. General Raylan stood at the center of the war room. He wore a black uniform with silver markings. His face was like stone, no emotion. Location? He asked calmly. One of the officers replied, Tralaxi homeworld, Sector 47, 3 systems away from the Goran invasion line. Raylan nodded once, slowly. Any response from other species? No, sir. The Council has ignored them. Again. Raylan stared at the hologram above the table, a spinning 3D map of the galaxy. Red markers showed Goran fleets moving like fire across the stars. Blue dots showed the Tralaxi system barely lit, barely defended. He turned to Commander Mace, standing nearby. Mace was tall, broad-shouldered, with a long scar across his right eye. He had seen war. Too much of it. They're not all eyes, Raylan said. No, Mace replied. They're strangers. They didn't call us when they built their empire. No, but now they beg. Mace looked away for a moment and said, The Council may not act, but we should. Raylan raised an eyebrow. We don't take orders from aliens. Mace smiled faintly. Exactly. 30 minutes later, 3 Terran warships entered stealth mode and jumped to Tralaxi space. Commander Mace led the mission. His ship, the Serpent, was Earth's newest Hunter-class dreadnought. Fast, deadly, silent. The crew said nothing as they watched the planet. Below, through the view panels, Tralaxi cities were burning. Screams echoed through the communication channels. Fires lit up the night sky. Massive Goran warships floated in orbit, raining destruction. Mace clenched his fists. They don't need help, he said. His second in command, a young officer named Lyra, asked softly. Then what do they need? Mace answered coldly. They need justice. He gave the order. Load the Omega payloads. Target the nearest Goran warships. Make it clean. No warning. Lyra's eyes widened. Sir, that's full-scale war. Mace nodded. Yes, Earth didn't come to talk. In less than 10 seconds, 3 glowing streaks left the Serpent and crossed the sky. The first Goran battleship shattered in a silent burst of light. No explosion. Just a soft, blue pulse, then silence. The second ship turned to respond, but was already torn in half by a hyperkinetic rail shot. The third tried to escape. It didn't get far. The Tralaxi, watching from below, were stunned. Their enemies were vanishing one by one, without warning. Back in the High Command Center, General Raylan watched the live footage. Response from the Goran? He asked. None yet. They're confused, scared. We've hit their command fleet first. Good. Raylan looked around the room. Officers stood still, waiting. This is not a rescue, he said. This is not a mission of peace. They sent a call, and Earth has answered. He stepped forward and pressed a red switch on the table. All fleets. Code black. Far above the stars, hundreds of Terran warships began moving. The silence was over. Earth had joined the war, not as saviors, but as the most feared force the galaxy had. Forgotten. The silence after the attack didn't last long. Commander. Mace stood on the bridge of the Serpent, eyes locked on the shattered remains of 3 Goran warships. Pieces of debris floated in orbit, glowing orange as they burned in the upper atmosphere of the Trolaxi planet. His crew didn't cheer. They didn't speak. Earth soldiers had learned a long time ago victory was never loud. Status? Mace asked. Lyra, his second-in-command, checked the sensors. Enemy fleet scattered. 2 smaller Goran cruisers jumped out of system. The rest are gone. Mace nodded. Good. Then he pointed toward the planet below. Open a channel. To Trolaxi Command. Let's see if anyone's still alive down there. A few seconds later, a fuzzy blue image appeared on the main screen. It was an alien Slim, with pale skin and wide, black eyes. Her breathing was fast. Her face was covered in soot and fear. This is Commander Mace of Earth, he said. The alien stared at him like she was seeing a ghost. You're real, she whispered. We didn't think you'd come. We didn't come for you, Mace replied coldly. We came for them. The Trolaxi woman blinked. Confused, Mace continued. You sent a signal. The galaxy ignored it. Earth didn't. But this isn't charity. We don't save. We end threats. The alien lowered her head. Then, thank you, even so. Mace didn't answer. The signal ended. Back on Earth, General Raylan stood in front of a private council of Terran leaders. The screen behind him showed live footage from multiple systems. Trolaxi worlds under fire. Goran fleets moving fast. Civilizations falling like leaves in winter. A senator asked, Why now? We stayed quiet for years. Why this war? Raylan answered with calm fury, because the galaxy forgot what we are. And it's time to remind them. The room was silent. Raylan continued. The Trolaxi begged for help. That part doesn't matter. What matters is the Goran thought they could burn planets without consequence. They were wrong. Hours later, across 10 systems, Earth's warships arrived like thunder. Some dropped from hyperspace in perfect formation. Others used cloaked entry, appearing inside enemy territory without a single warning. The Goran host confident in their power was not ready. On Varnuk Ix, 3 human stealth ships destroyed a fuel refinery with 1 blast. On Lormith, a Terran assault team boarded a Goran command cruiser and disabled it in less than 4 minutes. And on the edge of the rim, an old Terran battle carrier named Vanguard held off 20 ships by itself. Every time the Goran tried to fight back, they lost. They had size. Earth had precision. They had firepower. Earth had rage. Meanwhile, on the Serpent, Mace walked into the Chew tactical room. A group of Terran Marines stood around a glowing table, studying maps and enemy fleet movements. Some were young, others old. But all of them had one thing in common. They had trained for war their whole lives. New orders, Mace said. We're moving to System Epsilon 3. Goran High Command is located there. One of the soldiers, a heavy-built man with metal. Arms grinned. So we're cutting off the head now. No, Mace said. We're showing them that there's no head left to save. The next day, the galaxy started to panic. News spread quickly. Earth has returned. Deathworlders. In Goran space. Entire fleets gone in hours. Terran weapons beyond understanding. Leaders from peaceful worlds gathered in secret meetings. Some begged the Council to send peace envoys. Others locked their borders in fear. But Earth wasn't listening. Any more. They had sent a message of their own, and that message was war. Asterisk. The Galactic Council met in a high-orbit chamber above Saron Prime. The dome-shaped hall floated between the twin moons, shining like a pearl in the darkness of space. Inside, hundreds of species argued, some with calm voices, others shouting. In fear, the walls shook as news reports played on large crystal panels. Terran strike force destroys Goran command post. Earth's stealth bombers wipe out orbital stations. Human marines took a whole moon in under an hour. Council leader Voss, a tall creature with golden skin and 6 arms, slammed his staff down. Enough! He roared. We must respond. Earth is out of control. A short, feathered alien from the Nalari race spoke, but the Goron started this. They ignored warnings. They burned Tralaxi colonies. Earth simply responded. Another shouted, responded? They've already crossed. 5 council sectors. They didn't talk. They attacked. The council chamber fell silent when an older member whispered the words no one wanted. To say, perhaps Earth doesn't see itself as part of the council anymore. Back aboard the Serpent, Commander Mace stood in his command room. He was watching. A replay slow-motion footage of the council meeting from public feeds. Lyra entered quietly behind him. They're scared of us, she said. Mace didn't turn. They should be. She hesitated. But aren't we supposed to protect the galaxy? He looked over his shoulder, his voice cold. The galaxy laughed when humans begged for help during the Gliese uprising. The council watched as Earth burned cities during the Gray Plague. No one came then. But now that it's our guns firing, they want peace? Lyra stayed quiet. Mace stepped closer to the window and looked out at the stars. We're not protecting anyone. We're reminding them what it costs to ignore Earth. In Sector Epsilon 3, the Goran host gathered what was left of its navy. Ships stretched across the system like a wall of metal. Some were half broken. Some were stolen. All were desperate. Inside the warship Bloodsong, High Marshal Ralak, leader of the Goran, prepared for his last stand. We were the fire, he growled to his generals. Now Earth sends storms. But we are not cowards. We were kings of the stars, a lieutenant whispered. Then why are we losing so fast? The room went still. Ralak walked to him slowly, put a heavy claw on his shoulder, and replied, because Earth fought to survive. We fight to rule. That is the difference. Back at Earth's unified command, General Raylan faced his own storm. The council had sent a message, a formal demand. Ceasefire, retreat, open talks. Raylan didn't reply in words. Instead, he sent a single data packet 1 encrypted file. When the council opened it, all they saw was this: a list of every Terran ship, every Terran strike, every Goran loss. Underneath, 3 chilling words: this is restraint. Meanwhile, on a battlefield moon near Tralaxi space, Terran ground forces clashed with the last of the Goran soldiers. Flames danced in the sky. Machines groaned. The soil was black with ash dot in the middle of it all. A lone Tralaxi medic ran from crater to crater, trying to help the wounded. She saw humans carrying their dead, but also carrying the injured, even aliens like her. She froze when a tall human soldier walked toward her. His armor was scratched, blood-stained. He held something in his hand. A Tralaxi child alive. He passed the child to her carefully, and without a word, turned back into the fire. She watched him go. Her people had called Earth monsters, killers, beasts from a death world. But now she saw the truth. They were monsters, yes. But they were monsters made for war. And when they chose to fight on your side, the enemy had no chance. Asterisk, the sky of Varnet Delta was on fire. Huge Goran ships crashed into the ground like broken stars. Terran drop pods rained down behind them, sleek, black, and nearly silent. The invasion was fast, clean. Terrifying. Commander Mace stood atop a ridge, overlooking the battlefield. Smoke rolled across the land. Fires danced where cities once stood. Behind him, his troops waited for orders. Most were silent. Some checked weapons. Others stared at the sky, where Earth's carriers still hovered like shadows in the clouds. Lyra walked up beside him, her armor burned, Helmet off. The city is gone, she said. Only a few bunkers remain. Any survivors? Mace asked without looking at her dot. She hesitated. A few civilians. Mostly children. Mace nodded once. We'll evacuate them. Lyra was surprised. Even Goran children? Yes, Mace replied. We don't fight the weak. Then he added, cold as ice. We erase the powerful who abuse them. Meanwhile, on Council World Siron, panic spread like a disease. Dozens of ambassadors screamed across private channels. Some cried for peace. Others blamed each other. No one could agree, but all feared one thing. Earth wasn't just fighting the Goran anymore. Earth was tearing down the rules of war itself. Ships that were once untouchable, like command barges or communication hubs, were now targeted first. Terran soldiers didn't wait for surrender. They didn't care for borders. If it looked like a threat, it vanished. In a hidden meeting, 5 of the oldest council species sat in silence. Their faces were pale. The Terrans have crossed lines we drew centuries ago. One said quietly. Another whispered, they don't care. The eldest, with glowing white eyes, shook his head. They care. That's what's frightening. They're not wild. They're focused. This is punishment. Back in orbit, General Raylan stood aboard the Terran flagship Judicator. He looked over the latest reports. Systems fallen. Enemy fleets destroyed. Goran colonies abandoned. But something still burned inside him. They're running, his top officer said. Yes, Raylan replied. But not fast enough. The officer hesitated. Some council worlds are preparing to defend Goran colonies. If they step in. Raylan looked at him calmly. Then they join the war. Silence fell across the bridge. No one questioned him. Because everyone knew Earth did not bluff. Earth did not retreat. Earth remembered every silence from the past, and now it spoke with fire. On a frozen mining world called Craxus 4, a Tralaxi survivor named Rinnel stood watching Earth's soldiers battle. The last of the Goran elite. He had once hated humans, feared them. Now, he stood in awe. One Terran woman, small and unarmored, led an entire squad through a Goran trench line. She didn't speak. Her movements were precise. Her eyes were cold, but when she saw a wounded Goran soldier try to crawl away, she didn't shoot. She dragged him out of the flames and handed him over to a medic. Rinnel stepped closer and asked her, why? She turned to him. Her voice was soft but heavy with power. Because mercy is a human choice. But make no mistake, so is vengeance. In deep space, at the edge of known territory, a fleet of council warships waited in silence. They were not enemies, not all eyes. They were watchers. Inside the lead ship, a young officer watched Earth's ships arrive across systems like thunder. We thought they were slow, he whispered. His captain shook his head. No, they were just patient. Another ship commander leaned forward and asked, should we stop them? The room went silent. Finally, the captain said, if we step in, we become the next problem Earth solves. Back on Earth, news spread. Like fire. Citizens cheered. Others protested. Some wept. But the message was the same on every screen. Earth had answered the galaxy's call for help, and the answer was no peace, no mercy. Asterisk. The battle on Goran Prime should have ended that day. The planet was burning. The skies were full of smoke. The last major defense systems were gone. Terran warships circled like sharks, their weapons armed, waiting for orders. But something unexpected happened. A single, unarmed Goran shuttle rose from the planet's surface slowly, carefully. It flew up with its lights blinking in surrender code. Its shields were off. Its weapons offline. Inside, a Goran female general sat with her hands raised. Her name was Vakra. She had ordered the attacks on 3 Tralaxi moons. She had sent children to the mines. She had once called Earth a primitive rock. Now she begged for mercy. "We surrender," she said calmly over the open channel. "I speak for the remaining Goran. We are done. Please, no more." The transmission was broadcast to all Terran fleets. On the Serpent, Commander Mace stood silently. Lyra looked at the screen, confused. "They're surrendering. It's over, right?" Mace didn't speak. He turned to his weapons officer. "Is that the only ship rising?" "Yes, sir." "No ambush. Nothing cloaked." Then Mace walked slowly to the front of the bridge. He stared at the tiny shuttle as it floated in the void, dwarfed by Earth's warships. "We warned them," he said. "We gave them time. Years. They didn't listen." Lyra stepped forward. "Sir, we can end this now." Mace finally turned his head. His voice was low, steady. "Earth didn't come here to negotiate. Earth came to make a point." But something deeper held his hand still. Mace walked to the con station. He opened a private channel to General Raylan aboard the Judicator. "They're offering surrender," Mace said. Raylan's face appeared, calm as stone. "Are they offering truth?" Raylan asked. Mace paused. "Excuse me?" Raylan leaned closer. "Surrender means nothing if the galaxy forgets again. If the Goran survive and spread lies. If the Council protects them again. This war isn't just about saving the Tralaxi. Then what is it about?" Mace asked. Raylan stared straight into the camera. Memory. Down on the surface of Goron Prime, Tralaxi survivors huddled in ruined shelters. Smoke still rose around them. Families cried. Wounded screamed. One Tralaxi elder, her fur stained with dust, looked up and saw the Earth ships floating in the sky. She whispered, "Please, let it end." Then something strange happened. Earth ships did not fire. No missiles. No bombs. Just silence. Back on the bridge of the Serpent, Mace gave the order. "Stand down weapons. Bring in the shuttle." Lyra blinked. "You're letting her board?" "Yes," Mace said. "Let her speak. Let her face what she made." The Goran shuttle docked slowly. Terran Marines surrounded it. When the doors opened, Vikra stepped out. She wore no armor, no weapon. Just a gray uniform and tired eyes. She looked around at the human soldiers. Tall, quiet, deadly. And yet they didn't shoot. Inside the war room, Mace stood across from Vekra. "I've read your orders," he said. "The ones where you crushed Tralaxi cities and called them tests." Vekra didn't deny it. "I did what I was told," she said. "The Council said the Tralaxi were not protected." Mace stepped closer. "And now?" She took a deep breath. "Now I'm begging humans to do what no one else would." "Which is, end this or end us. We cannot survive another attack. Our children are hiding in tunnels." Mace stared at her. Then he said something she didn't expect. "We don't destroy species. We destroy the idea that they are untouchable." That night, the skies over Goran Prime were still lit. But not from fire. From Earth's medships and food drops. Thousands of civilians Goran, Tralaxi, and others were brought out of shelters and mines. Terran soldiers carried wounded. Fixed water lines. Helped rebuild walls. Across the galaxy, species watched the broadcasts. They saw Earth soldiers kneeling beside alien children, handing them blankets. They saw human generals walking unarmed into surrendered cities. And they realized something terrifying. Earth could have erased the Goran, but Earth chose not to. Because that, too, was war. The kind the galaxy had never seen before. The galaxy did not sleep that night. News of Earth's war campaign and the surrender of the Goran spread faster than light. Some species watched in fear. Some watched in silence. But all of them understood one thing. Earth had the power to destroy. But Earth chose something else. On a rocky moon outside Tralaxy space, Terran Marines stood in perfect rows. The ceremony was small. No music, no speeches. Only silence and respect. Commander Mace walked between the rows, carrying a black flag with Earth's silver emblem. A broken chain. Behind him, a row of survivors followed. Tralaxy, Nalari, even a Goran child holding the hand of a Terran nurse. At the front of the gathering, a monument stood tall. It wasn't fancy. Just a piece of scorched metal, once part of a destroyed Goran ship. But across it, in perfect human script, was carved one line. We heard your silence. Back aboard the Judicator, General Raylan sat alone in the command room. The lights were dim. The stars outside blinked like tiny eyes. An officer approached. Sir, the Council is demanding a full explanation. Raylan didn't look away from the stars. Did we send them the footage? Yes, the battles. The rescue operations. The graves. Raylan nodded slowly. Good, he said. Then they've already received our answer. Meanwhile, across a dozen systems, Earth's fleets began to retreat. Not in defeat, but in silence. They didn't wave flags. They didn't claim land. They simply left, leaving behind food, medicine, and warnings. One Goran child found a note on a broken console. It was written in rough alien language, clearly translated by machine. It read, "We don't hate you. But if you ever hurt them again, we won't stop next time." Terran Marine Unit 7. The child didn't know what to do. So he folded the paper and kept it in his pocket. In the center of the galaxy, the Galactic Council held another emergency meeting. This time, no one shouted. No one laughed. The screens showed Earth's troops rescuing enemies, feeding children, rebuilding alien homes. But the same screens also showed what Earth did before that. The ships they erased, the cities they flattened, the silence they broke. One ambassador whispered, "They could have become monsters." Another answered, "No, they became something worse." What? A force that doesn't need permission. Back on Earth, people returned to their normal lives. Shops reopened. Children went to school. Families watched the stars without fear. But in every Terran city, a new statue was built. It was always the same. A human standing still, hand outstretched, not in attack, but in warning. At the base, a message was carved in every galactic language. If you hurt them again, Earth will return. On the Tralaxy homeworld, life began again. Farms reopened. Families found one another. Old temples were rebuilt. And at the center of the capital, the biggest monument stood. It showed a Tralaxy child holding hands with a human soldier, both looking up at the stars. Underneath, the inscription read, "They didn't come to save us. They came to end the silence." Commander Mace stood there, weeks later, staring at the statue. Lyra stood beside him. "You ever think we went too far?" She asked quietly. Mace didn't answer right away. He watched the children play around the base. Tralaxy and human kids chasing each other. Laughing. Free. Double quotes. "No," he finally said. "I think we went just far enough." He turned to her with a tired smile. But now the galaxy knows. When Earth answers, we don't bring peace. We bring truth. And somewhere far beyond the stars, in systems that once ignored the screams of the weak, a new kind of silence returned. But this time, it wasn't the silence of fear or death. It was the silence of respect. The kind earned only once. By a species that answered an old call. With fire. Asterisk. The stars were quiet again. Ships had stopped firing. Cities had stopped burning. And in the silence that followed, the galaxy finally began to listen. On a peaceful planet near the edge of former Goran space, a new monument was being finished. It wasn't made of stone or gold. It was made from broken metal collected from both Terran and Goran. War wreckage, People from many species stood watching it. Some were Tralaxy survivors. Some were children who had never seen Earth, but knew. Its name dot at the center of the monument was a single sentence. Earth fought not because it wanted, but because no one else would. On Earth, General Raylan stood on a balcony high above the Terran capital dot. It was raining softly dot. He didn't wear medals. He didn't like speeches. But today, the galaxy had asked for one. A council finally humbled had requested Earth explain its actions publicly. Raylan stepped to the mic. Billions watched dot. He spoke in slow, simple words. We did not choose this war. We heard a cry. We waited. We watched. We hoped someone else would answer, but no one did. His voice grew harder. We remembered our own past when no one answered our cries. So we came. And when we came, we did not come to speak. We came to end the silence. He stepped away, without applause. But across the galaxy, species sat in stillness. Not no one laughed at Earth anymore. Meanwhile, Commander Mace had returned to space. He stood aboard the Serpent, orbiting a newly freed mining colony once ruled by the Goran. He wasn't there to fight. He was there to rebuild. He walked through the ruined colony, helping lift beams, handing out supplies, saying little dot. One Tralaxy boy approached him shyly, holding something in his hands, a piece of earth-made cloth with a silver chain emblem. The boy said, I want to be like you. Mace knelt beside him. No, he said softly. Be better. Be someone who doesn't need to fight. The boy nodded, confused but smiling, and Mace smiled too for the first time in years. Far away, deep in space, a secret council meeting took place. Old leaders discussed what to do next. Some feared Earth would rise to conquer more, but one younger voice stood up. A Nalari diplomat said, they could have ruled. They chose to warn. If we are wise, we will listen before they ever have to rise again. Back in a quiet forest on Earth, Lyra stood by a small stream. The war was over, but its echoes remained inside her. A butterfly landed on her shoulder. She didn't move. She whispered to the sky, was it worth it? A voice answered from behind. Mace stepped forward, arms crossed. Ask the ones who are still alive because of us. They stood there, saying nothing, but both knew Earth's victory wasn't in destruction. It was in the memory it left behind. Years later, the Tralaxy would teach their children about the day the sky turned red and then blue. The Goran would rebuild not as tyrants, but as survivors shaped by mercy. And the galaxy, once full of pride and silence, would change, because when Earth answered a cry for help, it didn't just fight dot. It showed what responsibility looks like. It showed what fearless protection means. It showed that even monsters from a death world could choose to be guardians. No one forgot what Earth did. And no one ever dared to ignore. A cry for help again, because the galaxy now understood one thing above all. If Earth comes again, it will not come to speak. It will come to end the silence, with war, with justice, or with both.